Hey guys, what's up? It's Josh here with the Pickleball Lab. And today we're going to be talking about the 4 phases of pickleball. I get asked a lot for how I've improved in pickleball so quickly. And the 4 phases concept is one of the most critical things that I use to accomplish this. In fact, I used it to go from 3.5 to 5.0 in less than a year. And I'm telling you, no one else is really thinking about pickleball like this. And because of that, if you do this, you're going to improve dramatically, leaving everybody else behind. So with that, let's jump in the lab. So as usual, let's not keep you in suspense. We don't do that here on this channel. The 4 phases of pickleball are serve return, transition, offense and defense, dinking, then hands or volleys. So in the intro, I said the 4 phases is one of the most critical steps I've used for rapid improvement in pickleball, not just for myself, but for the people I coach in person, the people I coach virtually online, and in our online courses. The reason the 4 phases is so great is that when trying to improve in pickleball, we're overwhelmed with a million different things that we can get better at, and we just get lost and target the wrong things or random things. Distilling these million seemingly random things into just 4 buckets, let's call it, is what you need to do. Then you can analyze which phase is causing you to lose the most points in real games, and then target that phase solely in drilling until that weak phase becomes your strength. Then you can move on to other phases that are now consequently weaker, choosing one that is now the weakest, again, the one losing you the most points in real games, and then shift your focus to that phase. Rinse and repeat, and watch your game grow rapidly over time. And if you notice, these 4 phases kind of flow together. In a typical pickleball rally, you're going to have a serve, and then a return. Then you're going to have transition, trying to move up to the net if you're on transition offense, or if you're on defense, keeping the serve team back from the net. Then you're going to have dinking. And then typically at some point in dinking, someone pops a ball up or speeds up, and a hand battle or volley battle ensues. When you look at these phases, you can see they progress together, which is great because it makes the concept even easier to understand and use. So with that, let's go through each phase a bit more in depth. Let's start with serve return. Now, this phase is pretty simple. You just serve the ball and then there's a return. And then that phase is over. Let's look at a few quick examples, even though we've probably all seen serves and returns before. This is a pro level match, and let's just take a look. Right here, we've got the serve and the return. Here's another serve and a return. And let's look at one more example. Serve and return. So that's the first phase, serve return. Pretty simple in theory, but let's move on now to the second phase, which is transition. If you've successfully served and returned, you will now start to try to transition. Now this phase is a little more involved than the first phase. This isn't a video on transition. Make sure you subscribe to our channel to be notified immediately when that video comes out. But let's start with a quick transition definition and then define some light transition concepts, just so we're all on the same page. Transition is simply the serve team trying to get to the net while the return team tries to keep them back. Because of this, the serve team is on transition offense, trying to get to the kitchen. The return team is on transition defense, trying to keep the serve team back. This starts after the return. The serve is the first shot, the return is the second shot, and then the third shot starts the transition phase. Now, this might sound familiar to you if you've ever heard someone say, third shot drop, third shot drive, or even just third. What they're talking about is that third shot that the serve team hits. They're going to try to use that shot to move up to the kitchen, and the transition phase lasts until either the transition offense team transitions up to the kitchen line successfully or hit the ball in the net, out of bounds, or the return team just hits a good shot and the serve team can't get to it and the point is over. Let's check some of the film of the pros to identify what the transition phase looks like. So here, we've got the serve, we've got the return, And now on that third shot, we are in transition. We've got a third shot drive from the transition offense, and then a fourth shot back by the transition defense, and then a reset by the offense. Another shot by the defense, trying to keep the transition offense team back away from the kitchen line. The offense hits another reset into the kitchen, and then that allows the transition offense team to move completely up to the kitchen line with the transition defense team, resulting in a successful transition for the offense team and the completion of the transition phase. Let's look at another example quickly. Here's the serve and the return. We've got a third shot drive from the transition offense, a fourth shot back by the defense, a fifth shot drop from the offense, a shot back from the defense, a little baby reset from the offense, and now because both teams are at the kitchen line, this means the transition phase is over again with the transition offense team successfully having moved up to the kitchen line with the kitchen defense. Now we've seen two examples where the transition offense team has successfully completed the transition phase, but this doesn't always happen. Let's see what it looks like for a transition defense to win. So we've got serve, return, third shot drop from transition offense team, a shot from the transition defense team, reset from the offense, another shot from the transition defense, another reset, and then the defense puts the ball away. The transition defense team here ended the rally by ending it in the transition defense phase, and that does happen. Sometimes you don't progress beyond transition. Just like if you hit the ball into the net on a serve, you don't progress beyond the serve return phase. Here's another example of the point ending in transition phase. We've got the serve and the return. Here's a third shot drive by the transition offense team. The ball is hit back by the transition defense team, and then the offense hits the high ball for a winner, ending the point in the transition phase. So that's transition, the second phase of pickleball. If the transition offense team successfully transitions up to the kitchen line and both teams, all four players, are now at the kitchen line, we then move into the third phase of pickleball, which is dinking. Dinking is a relatively simple phase in explanation, but not execution. You've now transitioned up to the kitchen line with both teams at the line, and now you're exchanging ground strokes or dinks, with the goal of trying to keep your balls low and unattackable, as well as hit some aggressive dinks to get your opponent to pop a ball up to you or hit the ball into the net. Now, let's look at some pro film again to identify that dinking phase. So here's a point where we've got our serve, our return, a drive, and a little reset up to the kitchen. And now both teams are at the kitchen line with the transition offense team having successfully transitioned up. And now we move into the dinking phase, with both teams trying to keep their balls low and unattackable, as well as trying to generate some pressure with their dinks by hitting some aggressive, fast-paced dinks to attempt to get the other team to either pop the ball up or put the ball into the net. And they will continue to dink until either of those two things happen. And that's the dinking phase. Let's check out another example of the dinking phase really quick. So, a serve happened off camera, here's the return, and a third shot drop right up to the kitchen immediately. The transition phase is over, and now we're dinking. Keeping these balls low and unattackable, waiting for a pop-up opportunity to speed up and engage in a hands battle. And just to reinforce it, let's look at another example one more time. So we've got a serve, return, a drive, a drop as they work their way up, and they finally transition. Everyone is at the kitchen line and we're dinking. And that's the third phase, dinking. Now, sometimes in dinking, the point ends with someone hitting into the net or dinking out of bounds. That's fine. But eventually, typically, what happens is someone ends up popping a ball high or someone speeds a ball up off the bounce and starts the fourth phase, hand battles or volleys. Hand battles are simply volleys. A volley is a ball that's hit out of the air before it makes contact with the ground. Think of volleyball. In volleyball, if the ball ever touches the ground, the point's over, right? Hence the name volley ball. So if a ball is hit out of the air before it touches the ground, that's a volley. But I like to call this phase hands or hands battles. It's just a lot cooler. So again, in the third phase, Someone either dinks a ball too high or someone decides to speed up and a hands battle happens. And let's watch some more film to really absorb what the hands phase looks like. So, in this point, serve, return, and transition have already happened. We're dinking. There's an aggressive dink that makes the opponent hit the dink a little too high. They speed it up, and not much of a hands battle ensues there, but technically we did make it to the hands phase. Let's check another clip. Again, serve, return, and transition have happened. Notice both teams are at the kitchen line. We're now dinking, with everyone trying to be aggressive when it makes sense with their dinks to get a pop-up. Instead of waiting for a pop-up, there is a speed up off the bounce and a hands battle starts up. And then the point is over. Let's do one more final epic example for us here. Again, serve, return, and transition has already happened. We're dinking. And then someone hits their dink a little too high. A phenomenal hands battle ensues. And then that's a great one to end on. And typically hands is where the point ends. It's very rare to see a point get to the hands phase and then start all over again with dinking or even transition. It does happen, again, it's rare. With the 4 phases, the point doesn't always end at the 4th phase or hands phase. In fact, it's uncommon for that to happen. Usually the point ends before hands. It will end early in serve, return, or likely in transition or even dinking. And the point of the 4 phases is not to complete the 4 phases. You haven't done anything wrong if you don't make it to the 4th phase and have a hands battle. No, the point of the 4 phases is to help you categorize and break down your game into manageable parts for you to be able to dissect your game and get better. 99% of the millions of things that you can work on in pickleball are going to fit into one of these 4 phases. So, how do you use this framework to help you get better at pickleball? First, you need to know your errors. I recommend filming for a true understanding of your errors. But whether you film or not, simply count up your errors over a few games, categorize each error into its appropriate phase inside of the 4 phase framework, add them up, and now you know which phase is causing you the most errors. Once you know which phase is the culprit, hammer that phase in drilling for 2 weeks. My bet is, at the end of those 2 weeks, it's no longer your weakness, it's a strength. You're winning more games and maybe even playing with higher level players. And just rinse and repeat, just keep going. So those are the 4 phases of pickleball and how to use them to improve your game drastically. I'm telling you, if you do this to strategically target the areas you have for improvement, you're going to watch your game absolutely explode. And make sure you send this video to your partner or that friend you know who's dedicated to getting better at pickleball too. This concept can get you guys on the same page and moving in the same direction together. And as always, if you found this video helpful, please consider liking and especially subscribing to be notified immediately when fresh new content comes out from us, so you can truly take your game to the next level. We also have an email list you might find particularly helpful. That link is below in the description. And then obviously leave us some comments. We love to chat with you guys. Now, what are you waiting for? Get out there and use the 4 phases to skyrocket your game. The 4 phases of pickleball. I get for how I've improved in pickleball so quickly. And the 4 concepts is the 4 phases. I might need to... Keeping these balls low and unattackable, waiting for a peep up. What, a peep up? Man, that was a long take. A little too long, but we're gonna do it anyway.